This is my girlfriend's Mark III Golf. It's a 1997 with a VR6. And today we're going to be showing you how to replace the rack and pinion on this car. So without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, if you guys can't already see, the rack and pinion is going to be this piece right here that runs along the exhaust, or runs right underneath the exhaust downpipe. That was really hot. I shouldn't have touched that. Looks like you could get it out by removing the downpipes, but you can't. So I'm going to show you the right way. I've never done this. First thing you're going to do is you're going to crack your lug nuts loose. That doesn't mean take them off, but crack them before you lift the vehicle. Oh, shit. Okay, once you're done with that, you go ahead and ask your helper to put everything back. Make sure you keep your tools organized. Nice. All right, so the next step is going to be lifting your vehicle. You're only going to have to lift the front end of the vehicle, but you want to make sure that you have at least 2 feet of clearance between the bottom of the subframe and the ground. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Just for safety, make sure to put something behind the rear wheel so it doesn't roll back for any reason. Connect the battery. Do that. All you're going to disconnect is your negative terminal. Now this thing, when you hook it back on, seems to want to scream at you. So make sure it doesn't come in contact with this terminal. Tuck it away somewhere where it won't accidentally be bumped. So the vehicle is jacked up, the battery is disconnected, and the lug nuts have been broken loose. You can see underneath. And first thing you want to do is inspect for any leaks in the power steering system first. I know this vehicle does have quite a few leaks, but we're focusing on the power steering. 2 of the leaks, one is coming from here on this return line. And the second one is, it's probably the most obvious, it's coming from the rack and pinion right there. So let's go up top and let's undo this engine mount right here, as well as this engine mount right here. So first things first, you want to go ahead and support the engine. Notice how I said support. That does not mean start jacking the engine up. And you want to place the jack. I found the best spot is right here on the transmission. Should be able to support the weight of the engine and transmission on the rear side of the vehicle. Or engine bay. Up top, we're going to go ahead and undo this engine mount. Down here, it's going to be 1 nut. And then you're going to do your tranny support on that side, and it should be 1 bolt. I'll zoom in for you. Right side of the vehicle, this is your engine mount. Go ahead and undo it. It's a 16mm bolt. So on the second engine mount, it's going to be this top bolt right there. It's just a little bit harder to get to, but you should be able to get it with a ratchet. So it's actually a 17mm, and your best bet is probably going to be using a wrench. Go ahead and get this sucker out. It's pretty difficult and annoying. All right, so once you go ahead and remove it, again, it's a 17mm head bolt. Go ahead, put it in your little storage baggie. And then you're just going to bump the jack up just slightly so that you could see that lifted off of both engine mounts. That way, when you go ahead and drop the subframe, you're not all of a sudden surprised by an engine falling on you because it's off balance. Once both engine mounts have been disconnected and you can move them freely, now you could go ahead and remove both wheels and get to the tie rod. Volkswagens have a key, but this one apparently has 17mm bolts, which is pretty common to European cars. Now go ahead and remove the wheels. And the next thing we're going to remove is going to be this nylock nut at the bottom of the tie rod on both sides. For that, you want to make sure that your wheel is completely straight, assuming that your alignment is good or at least close. And now you could go ahead and remove those tie rod ends. You want to go ahead and save your tie rod ends. I'm just going to show you for demonstrational purposes. You're going to get a mini sledgehammer or any kind of hammer of that sort, and you're going to smack it right here. Do not smack the stud inside because it'll mushroom, and then all of a sudden you won't be able to get the nylock on again. Just like that. You're going to want to undo this lower control arm ball joint. It's going to be 3 13mm bolts. On the other side, you'll see that there is a bracket that they bolt into. And then you also want to take out your sway bar end link as well. It's going to be a 13mm bolt on this side and a 13mm nut on that side. When you're done, you should have something like that. Next thing you're going to want to do is remove this rear bolt, this bolt, and there's one more right through the lower control arm. These two right here is what secures your rack and pinion. So I would remove those now too. And this, if you're replacing your sway bar bushings, this center one needs to be removed because that's what holds your sway bar. We're going to be doing that today as well. So again, all these components on this side are exactly mirrored on the other side. So let's get to it. Right above, holding the rack and pinion, there are nylock nuts that you have to remove as well, along with the bolt. These nylock nuts are 13mm. What you're going to do is you're going to remove that power steering line right there that the light is showing. It should be an 18mm. I could be wrong, but we're going to find out right now. Make sure that you have a drain bucket underneath to catch any excess power steering fluid that may still be in there. The power steering line's disconnected. There's two of them. They're right next to each other. You're going to go ahead and take out the subframe bolts. There's going to be one that you could get through the lower control arm right here. 18mm, and this is a 16mm. I know it's really weird and it threw me off too. But once you get those, your entire subframe along with your rack and pinion should drop out as one piece. Be very careful that the motor is 100% supported. If it's not, then you'll have an engine on you. So once you got the subframe out, we got it right over there. Amber's going ahead and cleaning it. You want to come up here to where the steering column pretty much connects, and you want to snip this zip tie off. That way you could gain access to the splines. Again, you want to make sure to double check before you drop that subframe that your steering wheel is kind of straight, and you want to go ahead and lock that in. And then you're just going to be working this boot up until you expose that steering knuckle. Right there. All you have to do is remove that bolt, and then your rack and pinion should drop right out. So be careful and keep your heads up, guys. So before you go on further and decide to just slap on the rack and pinion, you want to take a look at the new one and make sure to save the old one so you could cross-reference it. If it's different in any way, do your research and see if it's an updated part. If not, then you gotta go back and get the right part. So let's go ahead and undo these plugs and throw this thing in. Another thing you might want to do is grease these splines right here. That way, if you ever have to do something with the steering, or for any reason this joint has to come off, you'll be able to slide it off with ease and it won't be rusted out by rain. All right, so one thing to note when you're doing your rack is to make sure that the wheel is oriented straight and the rack is completely centered. And what I mean by that is when you get your rack and pinion, it may be slightly off to the left, slightly off to the right, or one turn off. And you want to make sure that you have it calibrated so that it's right in the center, as in it's just like you're going straight. So the way to do that is to get the splines at the top of your rack and pinion, turn them until it stops, count the turns to the other side, and then turn it back to the center. I know that's a little bit confusing, but once you're at that point, and again, the wheel never moves, so it's center, then you want to plug it in and put that bolt back. Another thing that you don't want to forget is on your power steering lines, which are these two right here. You have two little O-rings on the end that you want to make sure to replace before you go ahead and hook it back up, because it would be a shame if you got everything back together only to find out that one of those two lines leaked. All right, and then after you go ahead and install your rack and pinion, you just go ahead and reverse the entire process that we started from at the beginning. Once you go ahead and get in your vehicle and you're about to start it for the first time and you have your battery connected again, you want to go ahead and add your power steering fluid to the full level. And before starting your vehicle, with it still on jack stands, you want to turn the wheel all the way to the left and all the way to the right between 30 and 40 times. Then go ahead and double check the fluid, refill if need be, and then go ahead and start your vehicle. Do that another 10 times, recheck your fluid, and top off if necessary. Thank you guys for watching my video. Hopefully I'll be able to post more videos like this, and if there's anything that I could improve on, please let me know in the comments section. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys, and take care.